Hi everyone, Elle Hackney here, and welcome back to another interview on my YouTube channel. This is where I love to interview authors, illustrators, all people book related, and today I can't wait to speak to Mr. Jack Roney because he is a real life ex-police person who's putting his experiences into his writing, and I can't wait to talk all about it. Jack, thank you so much.
G'day, Lauren. Yeah, no, it's absolutely my pleasure to be here chatting with you. Thanks for reaching out. I'm so pleased to hear from you.
I can't wait to hear all about your journey, where you're up to now, and of course everything in between. Because you've spent time in the force. So if you could just tell us about yourself, please, and we'll go from there.
Look, I'll keep it short. It really depends on what version of me do you want to know about, because I've kind of reinvented myself over the years. I guess where I currently am, I'm now a crime fiction author. I'm retired from the police, and I draw from my 33 years experience as a police officer and detective to kind of inspire my ideas for writing fiction. So that's a real quick snapshot of who I am and how I came to be here. Well, that's another story that'll probably come out through our conversation.
This is fantastic. So at what point, because we've all been in those roles where you've spent a good couple of decades, you've moved around to the different departments, you've learnt different things, but at what point did you start writing?
Yeah, I look back and I think it's always been inside me. Even when I was back in high school, I was very good at creative writing, and not that I kind of really acknowledged it. I was reasonably good at English in particular. I was a reasonably good student. But see, I then joined the police academy straight out of high school. I was 17 years old. I'd finished grade 12, went straight into the police academy. So pretty much all avenues of creativity were institutionalized out of me. So I never really explored my creative side because I was learning how to be a police officer and learning policies and procedures and law and all the things you learn as a police officer, and then straight into my police career. And then fast forward a number of years, I would probably say it was probably fast forward at least about close to 15 to 18 years later that I started tinkering with writing. And after having worked as a child protection detective in particular, there was a number of experiences that were kind of sitting inside me, and I just started writing as an outlet. I often talk about how some people probably use a diary or a journal to try and kind of reflect on how they're feeling about the world, and I had it all bottled up inside me. And I guess like a lot of people in the police, we don't tend to talk about those sort of things. So I just started writing, and I come up with these ideas of these stories, and it just started coming out of me. So I guess it was always there, but it was laying idle for many years, and it wasn't until I had these things triggering these emotions that I just kind of felt the need to write.
Do you find because that's you would have bonded with so many people in the force, working side by side with them every day, do you feel others have kind of done the same thing? Because what you all deal with on a day-to-day basis is quite confronting, and let's face it, there's nothing preparing you for every day. Anything could happen.
I think anyone who works in emergency services probably has their own way of sort of managing stress or anxiety, depression, things that you experience on the job, or those critical incidents that you go to that probably other people wouldn't normally experience. I definitely do know of other people who use writing as an outlet. I know of police who have written non-fiction books, so they talk about their career and that they kind of express themselves that way. But I certainly know of other people who've done what I've done, and they've actually used their real life experience to kind of to feed into their creative side and to write. So it serves two purposes. It allows you to be creative, and it gives you that outlet. And I guess it's a good coping mechanism as well.
I couldn't agree with you more, actually, because my adult piece that I've written and is available on Kindle is based on events that actually happened with myself as well. And it wasn't until I wrote it and released it, someone said to me, "Oh, so you did journaling to get by?" And I'm like, "Okay, I just I didn't know it was a thing." But I can completely relate to that. But so you've got three books in your series so far, where, from my understanding, you've got book one, book two, and book three, but they all kind of link up. So did you pre-design the books that way, or did you do book one only, and then kind of grew from there.
Yeah, it really evolved organically. To answer your question, no, I never thought I'd end up with a 3-book crime series, and I'm already thinking about book 4 potentially. I started writing just a scene. It was a murder scene, and I just wanted to see whether I could write. And I started writing this kind of scene, and I kind of fictionalized some real life experiences. And then I kind of started building this fictional storyline around this initial scene that I'd written. So the original scene that I wrote probably ended up being about probably more about chapter 10 in the book. It wasn't actually the start of the story. So I just wrote a scene, and then the idea started to propagate, and then the plot in the book was kind of wrapped around this pivotal scene, the inciting scene that I wrote. And then I got this book finished, and then it evolved over the years. I released it, different versions, had it edited. Then I put it aside and did nothing with it for many years. And I picked it up and blew the cobwebs off, and I rewrote it again. And then finally, it was picked up by Hawkeye Publishing, and I was offered a publishing deal as a result of entering the manuscript into a writing competition. So it went through a lot of iterations and versions. And then off the success of my first book, I very quickly wrote book 2 and book 3. The idea is just basically those books wrote themselves, because each of the 3 books are independent stories, but there is a definite link between the 3. There are sort of linkages and themes that carry the way through.
That's incredibly clever. So how much are you allowed to use real life in a fiction novel?
Yeah, it's different shades of grey on that one. I guess you have to be very careful that you are not identifying people. And I think a lot of people who do this, I think, let's face it, most writers probably draw on their real life experience anyway. And you might develop a lead character, and some people might say, "Oh, you're writing about such and such." Just say, "No, I'm just pulling out the different character traits of maybe an amalgamation of a number of people." And that's what I've done. There was certain police officers I worked with, certain offenders I dealt with, other people from other walks of life, and witnesses and people I'd come to know, street kids, all these sort of people, and I kind of drew their characters, and then I formed characters as an amalgamation. But yes, you definitely have to be very careful that you're not seen to be, writing about actual events. You have to be very clear on that this is a work of fiction, and any depictions of real people is coincidental. But definitely, I drew on my real experiences to try and, breathe some real authentic life into these characters.
Yeah, because you would know so much more than just the regular person who has to research. Like, I wouldn't know anything about a firearm, whereas you were a detective. My understanding was you're a detective. You would know so much more about those things, where if I even tried to attempt to write crime, I would have to like research and interview everyone, because already naturally so much. Have you had anyone recognize themselves in your books?
No, because I think I've done that carefully enough that there was no one person that could say, yes, that's me. I think there's probably a number of people who might think, oh, like, for example, one of the antagonists is this bit of a pig-headed detective that clashes with my main character. And that's not based off any one person, any one sort of police officer that I've ever worked with. In fact, it's not really based on anyone, but I've kind of, I guess, drawn some personality traits from some pretty strong-minded people that I've worked with, and I ended up creating this antagonist. He's quite a colorful character, but no, I don't think it was so close that you could say no. It's one particular person.
Yeah, no, I think what you're doing and how you've done it is working, because your books are doing quite well. Tell me about your experience with Hawkeye Publishing. How was that?
Yeah, it was great. I think it's been certainly a great launching pad for me, because I think I was like a lot of emerging writers. I was floundering in the world of self-publishing. I did self-publish an early version of my first book called The Angels Wept, and it was kind of floating about. So I was very lucky that Hawkeye took me on. Even though I had originally self-published one book. That's unusual for a traditional publisher to pick you up after you've self-published a book. But for me, what the point of difference was, the book that I entered in the competition, the Hawkeye Publishing Manuscript Development Prize, was a different book. It was a historical mystery called The Ghost Train and the Scarlet Moon. So I entered that book. It's a coming of age young adult historical mystery, and that one came second in their annual competition, and that was the one that I was offered the publishing deal for. So we published that book, and then the publisher Carolyn said to me, "So tell me about your other projects," and that's when we got talking about my crime series. And so as a result of the success of The Ghost Train and the Scarlet Moon, which is a standalone novel, which is completely different to my crime series. It's completely, it's not based on, the antagonist, sorry, the protagonist is not a police officer. So off the back of that, I was offered a publishing deal for the book that I already self-published, and also the book 2 and book 3, which at that stage were just manuscripts.
Wow. So with all this, with Hawkeye, when you signed your initial contract to the books being published, how many edits in between was there? How many to and fro? How much to and froing was there?
Yeah, I couldn't put a number on it, but it's an ongoing process. You have I had a manuscript assessment done for The Ghost Train and the Scarlet Moon, so that was a very thorough process, and I got a lot of benefit out of that because after doing the manuscript assessment, it was about more structural issues and working out plot issues and redundant characters and really streamlining the process. Starting the book at the action rather than fluffing about with kind of prelude information. So it forced me to do a major rewrite, but it was for the better. So there's a lot of work in that. And then follows after the rewrite and the manuscript assessment, you've got the copy edits and line edits and multiple versions of it going to and from between editors. And then it comes back to proofread. Then other editors will look at it. So it goes under a lot of sets of eyes. And then finally, once we're happy with it, cover design, then we can start looking at the actual publishing, printing process.
How long did that take roughly?
Probably my experience was reasonably quick, and certainly the turnaround for the other 3 books has been quite quick. But I guess from the time that I entered the book into the competition, and again, because I came second in that competition, and then after that, I then embarked on independently. I got a manuscript assessment done because what I wanted to do was that I wanted to submit my best effort to the publisher. I didn't, because the competition is just a first draft manuscript. So I wanted to make sure that I'd put my best effort to the publisher for consideration. So I did the manuscript assessment first, did another layer of editing, and then I submitted it to the publisher subsequent to the competition. And then probably from that time on, I'd be guessing, but I'm thinking maybe another 18 months until we finally, maybe a little bit less, until it finally went to print.
Okay.
And then the turnaround really for the next 3 books was, the next year, book 1 came out of the crime series, book 2 came out the following year, and then a few months later, book 3 came out. So the turnaround between book 2 and book 3 in the crime series was quite quick.
Okay, so were you surprised at all of this because this is, I guess, your first exposure to a traditional contract?
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of, I feel like I've really got a lot of traction just in the last 2 years. I think I was kind of, as I say, I was kind of fluffing about, really not knowing where I was heading with this. I was still a police officer. I've only recently left the police because I didn't really know, should I just give this gig away and just focus on my career as a police officer? My concern was that there was a conflict of interest writing crime fiction and still being a serving police officer. So once I was offered a publishing deal, and I already had some inclination that, look, after 33 years, is it time to take a leap of faith and see what's out there in the world? And off the back of some publishing success, I thought, you know what, bugger it, I'm going to do it. So I did, and I after taking some time off from the police, I finally decided to leave and take up this writing gig full time. And to be honest, I haven't looked back. I haven't regretted that decision for a second.
You've had some great press too. I've seen you in the newspaper in the Sunday Mail, and I've been following you. I think, oh my gosh. So no doubt you've also planted the hopes and dreams of other police officers, that there is something that you could be doing that other than your career that you could be doing. There could be a passion project, because look where yours has led you. It's amazing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of a passion project. Yeah, you're right. Because when I was toying with the idea of leaving the police, because this is a career that had defined me for 33 years since I was a 17-year-old. Now that I'm in my early 50s, I was thinking, well, surely there's more to me than the guy that is in the blue uniform. So, and when I was making the decision around leaving, I had a lot of conversations with police who had before me had gone through the same process, and that anguish of making the decision to leave this vocation, this career that has defined you for so long. And so I was looking for them for advice. Ultimately, I still had to make my own decision. I had to, run my own race. And now that I made the decision, and an example is I had a book launch at a brewery. It was a really cool book launch, had 60 plus people there. And a lot of my ex-colleagues came to that. And it was good for them to say, they said, "Oh, we're so pleased that you've discovered this life outside the police, and we're so pleased for you." And I guess yeah, I think it's a good example that there is life outside the police, that you don't have to suffer in silence and wait till you turn 60 to retire, and like some do, because there's the fear of, what am I going to do outside the job if I leave? There is a
And it's
life
also,
outside the police.
and I'm guessing it's also because what you all deal with is so unique. You all use that to be together, to bond with, because really, if you're not going through it, or you've never been through what you've been through in a work day, you kind of all stick to where because it would be that kind of you know support, because what you're doing also with your past experiences is you're filtering them into something new, which really excites you. And that probably helps you cope with things as well that you've seen and that you've witnessed.
Oh, absolutely. And you might have heard the term, the police family and police culture, and it's a big thing. The decision to leave. I don't know. Maybe other people in other careers are in the same, a professional career, and the decision to leave that career, which has just defined you for so long, is a very tough call. And to kind of reinvent yourself. But look, it's been exciting. It really has been exciting to kind of, as I said, to reinvent myself. To do something completely new, to challenge myself, and it's just been so refreshing.
And I must ask the question back to Hawkeye Publishing. So you've done the job, you know the job. Did you have any clash with editors who wanted you to change certain things? Because, like I said, I would have to research. If I was to write a book like yours, I would have to research a lot. And no doubt the editors at Hawkeye aren't retired detectives. Did you have any times where you had to go, well, actually, no, this is how we deal with a crime scene. Actually, no, this is how we deal with a body. No, this is how we deal with firearms. Did you have anything like that happen?
No, not for my crime series. I think so. It's the Detective Jared O'Connor crime series. No, because I think I was very lucky that there was no real issues. I guess there was some trust placed in me, that given my policing experience, that I was well placed to create authenticity in the way I describe police procedures and what happens within a police station investigations. And I want to try and paint an accurate picture of what really happens. So there was really none of those discussions in terms of the plot and changing that sort of stuff. There were other editing issues to try and enhance the story, but definitely for the Ghost Train and the Scarlet Moon. I was given advice around should the protagonist, because my protagonist is a journalist, and there was some suggestion, should the protagonist be a police officer? And I pushed back and said, no, look, no, I've written other books where the protagonist is a police officer. I actually want to take myself outside my comfort zone and have a different type of protagonist. I don't want to keep writing through the eyes of a police officer. I want to read it through, write it through the eyes of someone else. And also there was conversations around, you should get rid of this particular character. And I did, incidentally, I followed that advice because it was the correct advice. So I have to say most of the advice was correct, and I followed that advice, and it did make the book better. But there was a couple of things I did push back and say, look, no, look, I don't want to change that.
And I understand 100%. So talking about going outside your comfort zone, where would you like your future to go?
Yeah, well, that's a big thing. I guess we all compare ourselves. I can, whether it's unfairly or not, but I guess you got to set a benchmark. You got to have something. You got to keep striving for something. I kind of feel like I've set, what I've done right now is just me bumbling my way through, making a whole bunch of mistakes. And I've done enough to kind of create a foundation, but I'm still looking to do more. Like I've just recently finished another 90,000 word manuscript. It's another crime novel. So looking at, what I'm going to do with that, and entering it into competitions. And I guess, I compare myself to the likes of, well, I mean, Trent Dalton is way up there in terms of success and exposure and celebrity status, and having a Netflix series. And You've got other Jane Harper, she's had incredible success in Australia. I compare myself to the successful Australian authors. Chris Hammer wrote a book called Scrublands, and it's been converted to a series on Stan, and there's been others. So I always kind of look at those Australian authors in the genre that I write, those crime writers who have achieved what I would call great success. We're talking about a deal for having a story converted to screen and being with a big publisher with national and international distribution and all that sort of stuff. So I guess there are those who have that overnight success, but I don't think there are too many that have that overnight success. Most of them, if you will speak to those people, will say they did a hard grind for 20 years before they finally found what others perceive as success. So I don't know. My journey is still unclear at this stage, and I'm just kind of enjoying the ride. I guess like yourself and other writers, you just really don't know what is around the corner.
That's exactly right. I heard at my writing group the other weekend, it takes 20 years to make an overnight success. But I must say, having the courage to do what you're doing, but it's your journey is a lot bigger than just you writing. You're teaching those out there that, you know what, you can take a chance. You can do something different. You can get your thoughts out on paper. You don't have to do it with the intent of writing a novel. But if getting your thoughts out, what happens to you on a day-to-day basis, helps with your mental health, that's also something important that I think your message of what you're doing for a lot of people watching is important as well. So I think you're a bit more successful than what you realize there, Jack.
Oh, thank you. I think we all like to keep, we don't want to big note ourselves, or I think most writers are pretty humble sort of people, and look, I'm absolutely chuffed that of the support that I'm getting, and I just love that support and the network and the wonderful people I've met in the writing industry and the different networks and writing tribes that I've joined. So I definitely love the people within the environment. But yeah, definitely in terms of writing as a way to as kind of self-therapy, I never thought that's what I was doing. I just had this inert need to start writing. And from that, I just dug deep and all the stuff. I just started venting all the stuff that clearly I was carrying around inside me that I never really knew that I was. For anyone who uses different forms of writing, diaries, journals, whatever, writing fiction, it's very healthy. I found it was very healthy just to offload all that stuff that I was carrying around. And then when I saw it, I thought, okay, now how can I shape this into something that is a story that could be entertaining and interesting for people, and give people a bit of an insight as to the real world of policing. And by doing so, helping myself internally as well by kind of offloading a lot of those things I was carrying around.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And what advice would you give for authors out there who are just wanting to be in your shoes? What advice can you give?
Well, I guess that there's the cliche around, write what you know, and that's what I did, and that's what I started doing. But that was where the ideas for my crime series came from, because I was very much, delving into my own personal experiences, and I think most people do that. So that would be one thing. A starting point is to start in an area that you feel comfortable writing. That's when I wrote my other book, the standalone, The Ghost Train and the Scarlet Moon. I deliberately took myself out of my comfort zone to challenge myself and write in a genre that was a little bit different, and write from the point of view from a different character. But ultimately, you've got to enjoy the writing experience. You are writing for yourself. If you go into this writing gig thinking that you're going to be famous and earn big bucks, you're kidding yourself. So look, write for yourself. My advice is write what you enjoy reading. I personally have always enjoyed reading, say, crime authors like James Patterson. He's very prolific and internationally acclaimed crime writer. So write what you enjoy reading, or write what you would like to read, because, like, for example, if I sit down in front of the TV and I've got all the streaming channels, I will spend an hour trying to decide what I want to watch. I can't find anything that I really, sometimes you're just in the mood for watching a particular type of show. And then I'll after wasting an hour, I'll turn it off and think, well, bugger it, I'll write something that I'm not finding exactly what it is that I'm looking for. So I'm going to write it myself. So yeah, write what excites you, because I tell you what, writing, 90,000 word manuscript is a bloody hard gig. You've got to be committed, and you've got to enjoy the process. If you're finding it's an arduous, torturous process, just give yourself a break. If it's so hard and it's so painful for you, maybe it's not for you. So you definitely have to enjoy the process of writing, but also keep an eye on the prize. Keep telling yourself every day I'll get 100 words on the page, I'm making progress. And if it takes me 1 year, 2 years to get this sucker finished, I'm still making progress. And then when I get it finished, then I can start thinking about what I'm going to do with the end product.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic advice. And I agree with you. There's sometimes not much on TV. So if anyone out there knows someone in Netflix, you want to make Jack Roney's books a show, because they would be fantastic on
Yes.
screen.
Any screenwriters definitely spread the word.
And so if anyone out there wants to get in contact with you, Jack, where can they find you?
Yeah, I bounce around on all the usual social medias, Facebook and Instagram. My website is just jackroney.com.au, and all my stuff is there. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Excellent.
Sorry. I should give a plug. I'll refer to him as my partner in crime, Harry Colfer. He's another Brisbane-based author who's a paramedic, and he's very much like me. He's a paramedic that writes fiction, crime fiction from the point of view of a paramedic. But we've teamed up, and we've got our own little podcast called the Genre Fiction Podcast. So got to give that a plug as well. So check that out, the Genre Fiction Podcast. It's on all the usual podcast platforms as well. It's a bit of fun.
Yes, absolutely. I forgot about that too, because that's how I found you. But thank you so much, Jack. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. Everyone out there watching this video, please give Jack a follow. Make sure you read his books. They're incredible, and they come from real life experiences. So if you can't sleep at night, I understand. But Jack, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. It's my pleasure. And Lauren, congratulations on what you're doing as well in terms of your own writing. I know you're playing the role of the interviewer, and but congratulations on what you've achieved too as a writer, and in particular what you're doing with your YouTube channel. I think it's fantastic the way you're promoting yourself, and you're getting incredible engagement on your Instagram channel, and you're building your followership, and no, well done. It's great that you're sharing the love of writing and creativity with a whole range of people, and what you're producing is fantastic. So well done on that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Jack. We're in it together.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because sometimes you might think it's a bit of a lonely thing, and why am I doing this? But no, people are seeing this, and you're adding value to people's lives. So definitely keep doing what you're doing. You're onto something.
Oh, thank you. I just like to know what you know and then share it around.
Yeah, no, just between you and I, wink, wink.
All right, Jack. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. All the best. See ya.
Bye.